All right. Hello, everyone. Namaste. Welcome. And I'm Professor Samuel Johnson from the Vellore Institute of Technology, the Amravati campus. And I work for the VSB, VIT-AP School of Business. And today on this talk show, we have a veteran, right, Mr. Sumit Barat, a veteran in resource planning, a veteran in aviation industry, if I can call Mr. Sumit, and he is come up from from nowhere to somewhere, and still he has a vision. And what I got to know about Mr. Sumit Bharat from my colleagues and my network is an encyclopedia in resource planning. Anything you want in resource planning, which is the nerve system, of any organization. And sir did his studies both in Hyderabad at Osmani University, if I'm not wrong, right? And then he started his first job in an airport in Mumbai at a very early age, at the age of 20. Started his job, worked hard, all right, jumped up the ladder, worked in India, worked with the top airline industries, India, abroad, all that Mr. Sumit will tell you. It'll be good that if we hear from them. And went to a top career, but always humbled down to earth. I also know from his profile that Mr. Sumit goes to a lot of colleges, a lot of universities, gives talk, gives his expertise knowledge to the youngsters, and he's also onto the advisory boards of various companies. He is also giving a lot of advice on the investments part of it, on the business part of it, on the growth part of it, and he is an all-round personality. But one core thing, if we have to tell about Mr. Smith Bharat, right, encyclopedia in resource planning. All right. So it's an honor, sir, to have you here. We welcome you to this show. And maybe can we just quickly know about your childhood? Because everybody says especially in this part of the world where I live in India, from childhood they say goal, passion. What is your goal? Even small kid they'll say, what is your goal? So, but as and when the years go by, there is a story behind the story of every person, of every organization. That's what I believe. All right. So, my audience, there is a story behind every story. So, today, for some minutes, we'll listen to the story behind the story of what Mr. Sumit Bharat is. Over to you, Mr. Sumit. About your childhood days. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure, and it is good to connect with you on a Sunday evening.
Thank
And
you.
you've been very kind with the introduction. Yes, and I will tell you a little. Start with a little bit on myself.
Yeah.
I'm a Bengali, and I was born and brought up in Kolkata. And we in our during our childhood, my dad was in the jute industry, so we lived in jute mills, and jute mills are actually a small ecosystem of an economic ecosystem. And we lived inside the factories, and there were those big compounds, right?
Mhm.
So we saw business very closely early on, that a raw material would come in, and then that would get converted onto a finished product, and then it would go. And I would always hear conversations on productivity, on resource management, and metrics like hands per ton, stuff like that. And always see hands per ton resource management. On the other side also, jute was a biodegradable
Product.
product, right? And when the whole onslaught of plastics came in, I could see jute industry not doing well. But I couldn't. My dad was a leader. He was a business leader, and
Mhm.
I could see him trying to convince political leaders and decision makers of why it is important to be into something that is biodegradable and not go for something that's plastic and that harms the environment. And you see, today, in today's world, when I fast track myself 50 years or
Mm.
45, 40 years, the subject is still relevant, right?
Okay.
So that's, and I come from a family which has been in professional business management.
Mhm.
So that's a thought which has been imbibed in in me right from the very beginning. So I went to a school, I went to a college, and I finished my graduation from Osmania University in Hyderabad and started working very early on when I was 20 years old. I
Okay.
started working for an airline in the airport at Bombay Airport, an airline called
Mhm.
Damania Airways. And the job that I did was front end operations. So our job primarily was to turn around aeroplanes. That's
Mhm.
exactly what we did. And when you turn around an aeroplane, the primary focus for you is efficient management of time. An
Yes.
aeroplane, now you know, now you know, during this time, this difficult phase, the worst hit is the airline business, right? And it has been like that. And Damania Airways was amongst the first few private airlines in India. So we were competing with the behemoths of Air India and Indian Airlines on the domestic market. So we had to be customer centric. Our customers had to choose to fly with us, right? So so my job essentially was to turn around a plane in the shortest possible time. Of course, OTP is the primary focus without losing track on safety, security, resource management, and stuff like that. So that was the early part of my life. And during that time again, Damani Airways was sold. So what happened is, here I was a young man working in an airport on a very front line. And because I had interest, I was also involved in a lot of back end functions. For example, working in the quality control division, working in the ground services division, and
Mhm.
helping people to do a lot of things, and in the bargain, I would gain some skills. And I would come to this interpersonal skill a little later, that how you
Sure.
pick up good habits. So the airline was sold because the airline was not doing well.
This
The
was
airline,
which year? Which
this
year?
was in the year 1995 and 1996,
Okay.
around 20, 22 years, 23 years back. So the
Mhm.
airline was sold. And here I was, since I was traveled and I was a well-spoken, or someone who understood the business well, I was picked up by the company that bought this airline. And I
Okay.
was made to travel across the country because a merger was taking place. And
Mhm.
unknowingly, I built a skill, that how you bring two cultures together, how you bring two business practices together. And
Mhm.
then it continued till 1997. In
Mhm.
1997, the airline closed down because this whole aviation business is a very cash intensive business, and the airline industry was not doing pretty well. So it closed down. And I then joined another airline, which is called the Royal Brunei Airline. You've heard about Brunei. Brunei is
Yes.
the richest country in the world in terms of per capita income.
Okay.
So this Royal Brunei Airline was flying through India.
Mhm.
And I worked at Kolkata and a few other airports in India. Also, I worked very briefly in Singapore for a while, right?
Mhm.
And then that was around a year that exposed me to the international regional airline, and
Mhm.
handling a wide body aircrafts and stuff like that. And then I got into my real job. I got selected to work for in Dubai for Danata. Now Danata is the ground handling company, aviation services company, that owns the Emirates airline. You
Wow.
can imagine. So the world's largest aviation travel services company. I I worked in Dubai for 6 years at various division of the airports, and my majority of the work in was in resource planning.
Okay.
And that's when Danata was transitioning from everything was manual. So
Mhm.
we were transitioning from a manual system, a pseudo manual or a pseudo automated system, onto a completely automated resource management system.
Okay.
And that's when I was exposed to managing resource effectively, and using advanced level algorithms and creating scenarios, stuff like that, how to implement a resource management system, an ERP, enterprise resource planning system, into the business, and derive results and create values. So that was the those 6 years are my formative years. And during that time, Dubai airport was facing unprecedented growth, where
Mhm.
the Terminal 1 was getting built, Terminal 2 was built, Dubai Cargo Village was getting built. Also, during that time, there was an airline that was coming up, was trying to refurbish and come up in a new avatar, was Qatar Airways.
Qatar.
And Qatar Airways was a customer of Danata, and that
Mhm.
was in 2005. and I just went family way, and we had a kid, and I wanted to come back to the country because in 2005, if you remember, there was aviation boom in India.
Mm.
And so Qatar Airways was starting their Delhi operations. So they offered me a job from Dubai, and I came to Delhi to start the Qatar Airways business in flight ops in to Delhi airport. So I worked for Qatar Airways, a very focused airline, and my primary job was to deliver
Mm.
the kind of quality that people are used to in the Middle East, the kind of service delivery, customer centricity that you have in the Middle East, you don't get usually in India. So my primary job was to replicate those practices into Delhi. But before that, I was briefly working in Doha airport as well. So
Doha.
you see, by now, I'm a 30-year-old guy who's worked in India, majority of the airports, cities. I worked in Singapore, I worked in Dubai, I worked in Doha. So it gave me a very unique perspective of
Yes.
customers' expectations, how business are run. I was very culture neutral, and
Great.
that's what Dubai gives you. Like you said, VIT has got students from 64 different countries. In
Yes.
Dubai, we have people coming from 110 nationalities.
All
So I would
nationalities.
work in a group where
Yeah.
I'm an Indian, and there would be somebody from Pakistan, from Kenya, some South Africa, someone from
All.
England,
All.
far off from Australia. So that's how diverse the whole culture was.
Yes.
And then that was Qatar Airways for around 20 months. And during that time, India was booming. 2005 was a boom. Economically, GDP of the country was doing well. And I was offered, and I joined an airline called Kingfisher Airline. And
Mm.
Kingfisher Airline was very popular, I think. And while we talk today on the 10th of May, yesterday was the 15th anniversary for Kingfisher Airlines. You can imagine
Wow.
how
Okay.
nostalgic. It's a great airline. We created a fantastic product. So I joined them as an airport manager for Delhi and Northern India.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for Kingfisher during its peak days. And since I had an understanding how a business is run, I brought in a lot of best practices into the airline. So
Wow.
during that time, we became a OSHA certified, ISO 9000 certified airline. We were IOSA, which is the IATA safety audit for airlines. We were also Skytrax, and Delhi was the largest station in the network. So we had a team size. I was leading the flagship operations, and the team size was close to 550. So I had 4 unit heads reporting to me, which in turn had 25 managers reporting to them, which in turn had around 250 frontline customer service staff, reporting
Yeah.
to them. So it was absolutely complex, 24/7 job, 365 days.
Mm.
And just give you a small metric, my telephone had 110 daily average outgoing calls. 110. So you can imagine the number of incoming calls, how
Yeah.
plugged in, how much involved those jobs were. But I think we did a fantastic job creating a great ground product, brought in some fantastic management concepts, best
Practices.
practices.
Yeah.
Kingfisher was able to attract a lot of smart people across industry. And then I moved on to a group which was getting into the ground handling business with the world's largest ground handling company called WFS. So
Mm.
they were starting their business in Delhi.
Is it
And I
Netherlands or Finland
it,
station?
it, it is an aviation services company which serve airline in various capacities
Yeah.
in terms of ground service, in terms of their ticketing, in terms of cargo, in terms of baggage, a lot of things. It's,
Yes.
it's kind of a one-stop travel shop. Then
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very large group. The name of the group is the Bird Group,
Mm-hmm.
and Bird Group is into hotels, into airline, into aviation services, into training, and a lot of things. And then I worked there for around 5 years, and I moved on from the business part onto commercial management, onto business development, creating alliances, a lot of foreign organizations that wanted to come to India, and how we set up their business in India. They were airline, they were aircraft repair and your
Maintenance.
maintenance repair organizations. And then I moved on to a hardcore ground handling company in 2014. I delivered some exceptional value in terms of transactions, in terms of market acquisition, customer value, profitability, EBITDA. And then what happened is in 2017-16 end, I was hunted by a headhunter. And this is very in, interesting. And I had worked in aviation and allied businesses for around 20 years of my life. So everybody that I would deal with or I would interact with, do business with, are either my friends. A customer is a friend, a regulator is a friend, competitor is a friend,
Every
everybody
pocket
is a
we have
friend. So I
somebody.
was like confused. Is it the relationship that's creating value for me? Or is it my skill that I'm able to create relationship and able to bring in value out of this relationship, you know? And during this time, I had met a lot of very smart people, and one of them told me, if you can convert a friend to a customer, that's a skill.
True.
That's a skill. But converting a customer to a friend is relatively easy. I know I had a bunch of visiting cards, they were all decision makers. So my boss told me, Sumit, can you convert this relationship to a contract, into an
Wow,
invoice, into a payment? And that's a skill. And
that's amazing.
that took me a couple of years. So, and I practiced those. And during this time, what happened is my uncle, who is kind of my friend, was
Yeah.
retiring, and he was 75 years old. So
Mhm.
here I was talking to me, what am I doing now? Can I be doing this for the next 25 years? 30 years? No, I can't be doing this for the next 30 years. So how do I reinvent myself? So
Mhm.
during that time, I got a call from a headhunter, the world's largest transportation company, FirstGroup PLC. It's an $11 billion company. They're coming to set up shop in India.
Mhm.
So they hired me as a chief operating officer, and I joined them in 2017. Had a fantastic experience working for them. I was exposed to the advanced stages of resource planning, managing operations, and FirstGroup is essentially into managing. It's the world's largest transportation operator. They run bus, metros, and
Wow.
trains in UK and North America. So I worked in the United States for around 6 months, and I worked in UK for another 4 months. I was exposed to front end operations, decision making, cross cultural things, projects. And then 2000 now, and I currently work part time with them, and I am into an advisory role. I do a lot of advisory work for the investment community
Mhm.
and for consultants who advises on to the surface transportation, air transportation. I work with a lot of small businesses so
Mhm.
that are transitioning from from a 50 crore balance sheet onto 150 crore balance sheet. So then they need access to a lot of talents.
True.
And I work with a lot of colleges too. So I do a lot of stuff now which I always wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I do a lot of reading. I do lecturing in a lot of colleges,
Wonderful.
and here I am today in front of you talking to you. And and believe me, I would never have imagined that I go to Vellore and talk to your students. But I think this is a great medium. And during this COVID, I'm working a lot with my wife. She's a school teacher, and my kids, the amount of digital, they are trying to be familiar with the digital environment, and
Yeah.
having worked with them. And my daughter, she's in class 4, the other one is in class 10, and I see them getting up to speed in this digital environment pretty fast. So
Yes.
which to an extent surprises me. I took a while to master Zoom, but I see my daughter,
Hmm.
she's 10 years old, the way she's accelerating, it's phenomenal. So that
Yeah.
is what I do a lot, and I hope things get kind of better pretty fast, and we again move back. But definitely the new normal will look very different.
True.
So there will be two era. One is pre-COVID, post-COVID, like it was BC and
BC and
AD. So
AD. Yeah.
now is pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Sure. So, Sumit sir, it was wonderful to know your entire, so maybe audience and wherever you're listening this from, you can see a person, having multi cross-cultural, global, you name it, from India to Middle East to Singapore to UK to US. It's such an amazing thing because this speaks a lot, right? This speaks a lot. And sir, maybe can I get a little input from you? See, when you are a student, right? Back in your Osmani University undergrad days. And now, can you just tell me, because see, I'm into a teaching profession, I'm into a business school team. So what we teach, right? And what exactly happens there? What do students should keep in mind while they study, while they prepare for 3 years, 4 years, or 2 years post-grad? Is it that all that marks, which is going to take care of them? Because what you studied and what you've done, right? What is that so much, or is learning continuous? A small message from your background. Yes, sir.
See,
Also.
what I keep telling to young people, one is I will tell you how I got into teaching.
Mm.
We in we did a lot of recruitment, and there would be days when we would start interviewing young people from 10 o'clock in the morning, and
Mhm.
then we need to recruit customer service, customer
Mhm.
service professionals, to start doing interviews in morning 10 o'clock, and we would continue till 10 o'clock in the night, and then we would not get the right kind of people. And then I started asking my HR manager that why is it? And then we found out that what am I doing to create young professionals, right? See,
Okay.
there are enough jobs in the country. There is no two ways about it. It's a big country. The prime minister's got a vision of a 5 trillion economy. That's all fine. There are enough jobs. There
Mhm.
are enough young people, enough young graduates. But the
Mhm.
problem is they're not employable skills.
Mm.
We have hired people who are very good in English, but if you
Mm.
come in and tell them to write a report, they kind of struggle. I'm
Mm.
not undermining or discounting their skills, and
Mm.
I'll come to this in detail. So there
Yeah.
are not employable, billable skills. You need skills that could be built. Getting
True.
my point? So I
True.
tell people there are very important three things. One is your
Mm.
knowledge, second is your skill, and
Mm.
third is the attitude,
Yeah.
whether you have that ability or the mindset to go and get to work. And
Mm.
before that, I'll give you an example. When you study in a college, you could be a very popular student because you're intelligent, you're charismatic, and you're surrounded with a lot of smart people. Your teachers, your professors liked you. And
Yeah.
this happened to me. I had a friend, and we were very close. And one fine day, we chatted till 12 o'clock in the night. And
Mm.
next day morning, when I went to college, this guy, Rakesh, was not in the class. So I asked, where is Rakesh? And those days, there were no cell phones.
Okay.
Cell phones. So I did not know where Rakesh was. I came home, I called Rakesh's flat, and I found out Rakesh has traveled to his hometown. Why did he go to hometown in the night 4 o'clock? Because his father was not well. And
Mm.
another friend of in the college, in our class, accompanied Rakesh. So
Okay.
that was a big shock to me. If Rakesh was a friend, why am I not a 2 a.m. friend for Rakesh? Where am
Okay.
I going wrong? am
Okay.
i am I there to hang around with my friends during the good time?
Mm.
Is there a trust deficit? I took back this story to my father.
Mm.
He said, are that which means you don't get along with people. So when
Mm.
you are in a college, it is about you study,
Mm.
you give a good exam, you get a good mark. But when you go to work and you pay, when you are studying, you pay. But when you go to work, you get paid for working. Getting my point?
That's the
So
biggest
there is
difference.
a
Yeah.
huge change. See, today you go to school, you pay fee, you get into a college, you're a good student, whatever. You do pretty well, you mug up things, you know how to do research. But when you go to work, it is about you going to work and they paying you,
Mm.
and you work along with people. So it's attitude, it's skills, and it's knowledge. A
Mm.
college would give you knowledge, but you should also be very curious of how the whole world works.
Yes.
Suppose you have a computer management student who is doing computer science, and she or he is pretty intelligent. I'll give you a very specific example. She or she is very intelligent, but when she goes to work, she cannot get along with people.
Yes.
She is not a team. See, everybody is a team player. That's fine. But
Mm.
are my teaming skills strong? We work in teams during a day. During a normal day, we work in 5, 6 teams. Like when you're doing this video, you're working with your creative team. And
Yes.
when you're building, like you said, you were working in Vellore, you moved on to Chennai. You
Yes.
had a different team. So when you're with the construction team, with the civil engineers, when you work with the interior decoration team, when you're designing course, you're working with academicians. So it's very important in life to be very curious, to be
True.
very inquisitive, and to be
True.
very humble, to be always too willing to learn and to get your hands dirty. If
True.
you, and you know, I came up with an example which my one of my seniors shared with me. So this guy was an engineering graduate,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was, you know, during those time, apprentice was very common. You had to be an apprentice for 6 months, and
Okay.
he was allocated at a engine shop. And
Mm-hmm.
then this cleaner, this helper, which is hardly class 8 pass, came up with a ball bearing, and it
Okay.
turned the ball bearing. And when you turn a ball bearing, the bearings rotates very fast,
Yeah.
right? And he is a mechanical engineer, first class, and was a topper in his class, 12, topper in the class, with his head up there in the clouds. So this was this blue collar. The one this guy turns the bearing. The bearing rotates pretty fast, and the
Mm.
bearing suddenly stops. So
Mm.
this friend of mine, he asked him, "Is this serviceable or is this damaged?" You know, this is so. This uncle and this friend of mine was like, he did not know an answer. He said, "No, it's stopping so fast. So
Mm.
this might be a damaged bearing." Getting my
Okay.
point? So this blue collar says, "No, no, no, this bearing is right. You know bullshit." Are you getting my point? So you see, knowing something and doing
Doing.
something is very important. To be able to get along with people, to know how the whole business works, how supply chain management works, how to get along with people, how the entire profitability of a project works. Everything eventually boils down to how you grow up and become a good business manager.
Great.
So
So
does that answer your query, your
oh,
question?
sure, sure. It's a very good message from what knowing to doing. There's a huge difference. So maybe all those who are listening, especially to the young people who are preparing their lives, right? There's a lot of difference between knowing something and doing something. Because at the end of the day, I also believe, Mr. Sumit, I graduate and I get a grade sheet, right? This will be a very good point when I speak in a lot of universities. I tell the kids, uh, I get a graduation, and the graduation is a sheet of paper, right? A degree. But when I go to interview, my paper degree won't speak. Yes, my degree, my transcript has everything. It has all my grades, my courses, my credits. But dude, at the end of the day, I have to speak, right?
Yes.
I have to speak. The paper won't speak. Now, you see, if this analogy can be understood by students, I'm sure, and if teaching also can, combine, right? So even this morning, I put it on my WhatsApp. Every day I keep writing something, whatever comes. So I was thinking today, a teacher should inject the subject in such a way that the student gets respect and the company doesn't reject. There are four jects in that, yeah. Inject the subject so that the student gets respect and the industry doesn't reject. If
Reject,
this,
absolutely.
yeah, but life is not a bed of roses. Life is not a straight line. So you worked so much, you earned your credits. Can you tell us small, any incident in your life where uh, learning is the continuous process, and in your experience, both in India and in abroad, right? How are organizations spending so much time on L&D, learning and development? But why do people have to spend money on learning and development? They are a graduate, they studied and came. So can you give this message so that any student who is listening here or a graduate who's listening here, they understand that what we study till now is only the beginning to go further. So why do L&D is so important, right, in an organization?
See, what happened is, one is the basic hard skill knowledge. That is, I know 1 plus 1 is 2. I know calculus. I know classical economics. I would know classical mechanics. I would know all those things. Second is the soft skill part of it, right? Let's say that we have a great computer science students and who would aspire to get into one of the top league IT companies, maybe
Yeah.
Google or maybe Facebook. But eventually, it is about dealing with human being, right? What happens is and we have found that, I keep coming back to frontline customer service experiences. By, we would get a lot of young people who would come to work with us at the airport. A lot of young people, they would come, they would want to be cabin crew, they would want to be customer service agents, and they would want to do. And these examples are transferables. You can transfer this example to a coder who writes a software code, and you could do that with somebody who's a chartered accountant, has got into investment banking. This example would also go for a prospective researcher. This example would go to somebody who is doing, for example, a doctor. He's a medical student, and then he's a good student, so he was in class 12, did exam fantastic in his entrance exam, got a top notch doctor into a medical school, became an MD, became a DM, and then he finally gets into a hospital where there is a patient sitting in front of him, right? What happened is, I've seen a lot of young people coming to work with a lot of hopes. They have a lot of ideas, a lot of ambition, a lot of energy, enthusiasm. And they come to work. What happened is, one is when they don't train themselves. So there's a know-it-all feeling that no, I'm a good student and I have been topper in my class, so I would know it all. And then over a period of time, that knowledge decays. They say statistically, empirically, it has been proved that your degree is good for the first 18 years. For 18 months,
18
your
months.
degree is good enough to get you a job. And then it's your performance, it's your deliverable.
Yes.
It's your deliverable, that what have I delivered? Am I able to work with team? Am I a great guy to work with people? Am I a great guy to work with people? In order to do that, you need to continually upskill yourself. Again,
Yes.
from a hard skill point of view, let's say today, when you start studying engineering, the technology, and when you leave after when you pass out after 4 years, the technology has changed. A 4 year is a very long time during which technology become obsolete, right? So what happened is, you need to upskill yourself on the hard skill part. You need to also upskill yourself on your soft skills. On the soft skill, first is how do I manage my intelligence? How do I manage my emotional intelligence? How, when I hear something good, when I hear something bad, am I reactive or am I responding to a situation?
Yeah.
Second is, how am I able to deal with other people emotion? If someone comes and frowns at me, I behave in a very negative fashion. I react. And then, in order to get along with people, to be a team member, to be a leader, to be a team leader or stuff like that, you need to understand, how do I create a flow where the other person is comfortable in my presence. If I give a positive feedback, he doesn't feel that I'm flattering him. If I'm giving him a critical feedback, he is not flattered. He doesn't feel offended. And these are not innate skills. These skills can be learned. And the
Yeah.
best way to learn it is when you get into a place of work. You will see there will be a lot of professionals who have mastered those skills. And you see that there's no point in reinventing the wheel. It makes sense that you go to that individual and tell him, sir, I like the way you work. I want to sit in your meetings. I want to be with you. I will get you coffee. I will get you a lunch. I will maybe carry your bag, but I want to see closely how you work, how you respond to customer queries, how you deal with your employees, how you deal with your seniors, how you deal with your subordinates, how you deal with your peers, and to create a engaging, positive environment. So get along with people, be an open book, be creative, and be always learning. People talk about, like, I'll give an example. People talk about work-life balance.
Yeah.
People say, I have a this is my personal life, who I hang around with. But you see, when you work for a large organization, when you work for a large customer, suppose you start your own business. They say, I want to do my own business. I don't have a boss. No, your
Mm.
customer is your boss. So
Mm.
if, and you're a drug addict and you would have a lot of negative habits, it will eventually affect your work, right? So
Yes.
work-life balance, there's nothing called balance. When
Mm.
I'm at work, I take phone calls from my family, and when I'm at home, I take phone calls from my office as well. So
Mm.
how you blend. Now see, today, this 45 days that we are at home, this has given us a different perspective of what work-life balance
Life.
is.
Yes.
So my message to young students is that when you go to work, when you go to work, have an open mind, have the right attitude. You should not be saying no. I'm not saying that you should say yes to everything, but be creative with your responses, and
Mm.
always have an open answer. Suppose it's sunny outside, don't tell people, wow, it's sunny outside. No, tell, how hi Sam, do you like the weather outside?
Yeah.
And get into a conversation, have be engaging. So what happens is, people love to hang around with you, people love to work with you, people like to include you in complex projects, and
Mhm.
that's how you grow up in life and you fulfill your ambition satisfactorily.
All right.
Make
So,
sense?
yo, so much. Yeah. So, well, from your thing, what I could draw a point is like, learning is
It's an
not,
ongoing process.
it's not a full stop, it's a comma. Yeah. It keeps going.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the message to all of you from such a, eminent person who is into resource planning has given this, that there's no full stop for learning. You have to keep it as a comma. And Mr. Sumit, could you tell us a little bit the work culture? Like, you were in the US, you were in UK, you were in Doha, you were in Dubai, Singapore, and in India, all major airports, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, a little bit which will be really useful for all of us. Like, what is that? Some small things you saw difference between a US person and UK. Small things which we don't know. For example, we say biscuits and they say cookies. I'm just giving you a small thing. Yeah, yeah. So we talk to strangers; they don't talk to strangers. Yeah. So something which all this can you put it in a nutshell? It'll be wonderful for us students because yeah.
See, it eventually comes down to your openness.
Okay.
I will give a specific example that will make a point. When we work in India, we write emails in, we address our seniors as sir. I would
Mm,
call my boss as Gaurav sir. I
mm,
would call as him Bajaj sir. I would
mm,
call him Mr. Oberoi, or I would call him Mr. Malhotra, or
mm,
people would refer to me as Sumit sir, Mr. Barat. Now what happened is, when I joined an American organization, and my people that I was reporting to were Americans and the Britishers, and I had to write an email to them, so I would write, dear Mr. Tim, for example,
mm,
or dear Mr. Buxton, or dear Mr. McCain. Now, and that would raise eyebrows, because I came from a
mm,
background but I was comfortable addressing people like that. And it took me almost a couple of months to write Tim, or to write John, or to write Pablo. It took a while. And what happened is, and I was lucky, because I was in the US. I was in a
mm,
place in US called Virginia, which is around 40 miles away from Washington DC. It was a Sunday. It was a Saturday night, and we were off. So I walked out for a dinner. And I was alone, and I finished my dinner, and there was an elderly couple. They were having dinner across the table. And since I worked in a very high intensive customer service environment, I gel with people pretty well. I do that pretty fast. So we had our meal, and then we were outside at the traffic signal. The road was empty, and I smiled at this old man. And I said, hi sir, how are you? How do you do? I said, I'm good. So, and I told him, this place is awesome. Virginia is very nice. It's very
mm,
clean. The weather is very nice. So I told him, this place is awesome. And this gentleman asked me, so where are you from? I said, I'm from India. He said, oh, where in India are you from? Now, very few people in the US, random people that we meet, they're not too familiar with India as a country. They are no, they know India is a big country, that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
in India, where in Delhi is a very difficult, is a very strange question. So
Yeah.
this gentleman asked me, oh, you're in Delhi, so what do you do? I said, I do that. Then he says, I visit India very often. I said, so what do you do? When you
Wow.
come to India, what do you do? He is a management consultant who advises
Mm.
companies and international managers on cultural differences. And here
Wow.
I was lucky that I got it. And it happened so we were in the same hotel. And then
Okay.
I said, sir, I want to ask you a question. He said, yes, please do. I said, I'm struggling with referring my manager on a first name basis. So how do I do that? Because I come from a background where I was inhibited from calling my boss by on a first name. But if you're my boss, I wouldn't be able to courage up and call you, hi Sam, how are you? How is it going?
Mm.
Let's have a cup of
Mm.
coffee. We couldn't do that. He talked me through that how culture is different and how we do things. Although I was exposed to that in Dubai, we are all basically peers. So at, at addressing peers is little easy. But when you
Yeah.
talk to someone who is hierarchically 3-4 levels above you, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's an example. You have to be open to culture, be respectful of people, keep learning, watch videos, and like my culture is important to me, his culture is important to him. You have to be respectful of
True.
religion, of language, of gender diversity. Now today, see, the world has changed. Today, gay, lesbian, everything is acceptable. So
Yeah.
you should be, and one should be, to become a true professional, should be very open-minded, should be culture aware, should be culture neutral.
Culture
And the
neutral.
world, and in India as well, India is a much more complex country. The culture, the language, the dialect changes
Nobody.
every
Yeah.
200 kilometers. You
Yeah.
see, when I, as a North Indian, I go to the southern part of the country, your Hyderabad and Tamil Nadu and your Kerala and your Karnataka, they're all different cultures, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Absolutely.
already have it in us. We need to be aware of that. We need to be
Mm.
mindful of it. We need to be respectful of it.
Yeah.
And then see people the way they are without being judgmental.
Very true. Very true. So, um, your quick take on like you are saying about we need to upskill ourselves on the go, on the job. Yeah. So now, little some small questions with your professional area. Like you've been resource planning
Yes.
chief or operations manager in airlines industry. So now with the present, right before COVID and after COVID, yeah. So even yesterday I shared one, very good case report
Yes, you did.
on all the flights, being halted, landed, grounded. That's your word. So, Mr. Sumit, what is your take? Like, yes, still, if everything goes well, maybe, how many years it would take for the aviation to again settle down, come back, and what skill sets would now be required? Because any flight you grounded, based on the size of it, if it's a jumbo 77, the bigger the size, the more the maintenance, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And just imagine if all the flights are grounded and then the maintenance and then again putting it up. So, what are the challenges you think from the aviation which we need to be prepared? We need to be prepared. And this too shall pass. In the past, so many crises came. This too shall pass. But once it's getting ready back, what is the message to all the people in that industry? How we can together, fly it up?
This is a very interesting question, Sam, but it's very difficult. And the answers could be even interesting or answers could be very difficult. Like
Mm,
I talk to people and I tell them, see, no one can play God. Let me tell you, nor can I, nor can
mm,
anybody play God and say this is how the future looks like.
mm,
Because anybody who's trying to predict how the new normal looks like
mm.
couldn't predict in January when March was the future that there is COVID coming and this is the kind of unprecedented
True.
economic uncertainty that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So what as professional managers, what we can do is rather than predicting the future, we should be creating scenarios.
Super.
This is how it could be. If this is scenario one, my response is scenario response A.
A.
If it is scenario two, I am response B.
B.
If it
Wonderful.
is scenario three, I am response three. My response is three. Because we
Wonderful.
don't know. See,
Yes.
everybody's predicting, and I would tell you, you open newspapers, you open LinkedIn, you open social media, people are predicting that the revenue numbers are down. It's
Mm.
fine, it's down, because did we predict? If we couldn't predict
Mm.
something so huge,
Yes.
something so unprecedented, how could you predict how will it look like? Like if you
Oh,
see today's newspaper, China is opening Disneyland from Monday, and it's overbooked.
wow.
There's a high-end Hermes store. They sold more after the lockdown than they did before the lockdown. So you don't know how humans will change. But as young people, your students, as professional business manager, it is important that we see again why had work from home not existed, had Zoom
Yeah.
or Microsoft Teams or Slack not been there, the
Mm.
damage would have been unprecedented, right?
True. True.
So the moment there was this pandemic, the world responded with a lockdown. What
Mm.
did corporates do? Corporates responded with work from home. But where
Mm.
did this work from home come? Work
Come
from
from.
home as a concept existed.
Mm.
5% of the country working people who work were working from home. So
Mm.
what they did, they took that idea and they worked on it and they scaled it up. Getting
Wonderful.
my point? So
Yeah.
see, work from home existed. Last time, ideally, if you go to the YouTube, you'll see a lot of interviews happening where professionals, leaders would come to the university, sit with Sam face to face and talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But today you are using Zoom. Did you imagine a year back or 6 months
Never.
back that you would be talking on a Sunday evening?
No.
No, right? So
No.
you see, so you took a concept and you scaled up, right?
Yes.
Similarly, we need to, as professionals, we need to create environments that
Mm.
okay, demand will not grow, consumer consumption will not grow, revenue will not grow. So what do I do? Do I
Mm.
dump my business plan? Do I dump my business? No. So what do I do? Now, lean management as a concept
Yeah.
exists.
Yes.
Exists. We talk about low cost as a concept exists.
Mhm.
Resource management as a concept exists.
Yeah.
So we need to see how do we bring in those concepts in our business and how do we scale up. For example, people talk about, I'll give an example and I tell this to people, low cost airline. We talk
Mm.
about low cost airline.
Yeah.
Suppose you need to buy a pencil. We
Mm.
buy, right? When you went to your shop, you bought this headphone.
Yeah.
Did you tell people, no, no, I'm a high cost college. I will buy the same pencil for 500 rupees. If
Mm.
I was a low cost company, I will buy this for 50 rupees. Do you say that? So there's high cost is a meaningless word.
Yeah.
Low cost is a meaningless word. You have to see cost as a cost. You have to see revenue as a revenue.
Revenue.
Cost has to be minimized, optimized. Resource has to be optimized, revenue has to be maximized. So there is no two ways about it. Now that companies are working, have scaled up work from home, they have new insights into their business. Insurance companies, I was talking to one of my customers in the insurance business. They the whole insurance retention renewal business will now be working from home, where you are managing your commercial real estate cost in a very different way. You will be reclassifying, reconciling your production planning. Getting my point? So you have to create scenarios and you have to prepare for yourself for those scenarios. The post COVID could be like post Second World War. After Second World War, we created a fantastic demand and the whole world saw development which is unprecedented. And
Yeah.
during the World War, Second World War, the whole economic infrastructure, the physical infrastructure of a country was destroyed.
True.
Now, at this point of time, infrastructure is not destroyed. The demand is there.
Yeah.
What companies need now is a cash runway. You
Okay.
need a cash runway for the, let's say, now that it would be difficult for a college to place students because companies are not hiring.
True.
But this is a time when you build new skill to your students, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
might be able to teach your students that you need to be entrepreneur. See, we were familiar with a word, an historical word. It was called bureaucracy.
Mm.
Everything was top down.
Yes.
The team leader says do this, the manager said do this, do this, da 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 da.
Mm.
Then the concept came called meritocracy,
Mm.
where your performance is how meritorious you are. You write a great code, you are a good performer, you will rise up.
Yeah.
Now we are entering a phase called adhocracy, which is
Mm.
also called the gig economy. For example, one of your student who is a computer science engineer, he can either go and work for a hardware company. What choices does he have? He can go and work for a hardware company. He can
Mm.
go and work for a IT company writing codes. He
Mm-hmm.
can work for a company that is, I don't want to use the word body shopping, or
Yeah.
he could be working for a normal company in their IT department, right?
Yeah.
The most desirable job is he would want to go and work for Google, want to work for Amazon, or he could be working for Infosys, or maybe TCS, or maybe working for Deloitte, or
Mm.
could be working for a hardware company that manufactures computer, or he could be going and working for example, a steel mill or a
Mm.
bus company in an IT division.
Mm. Mm.
There is a food chain, the most desirable job and the least desirable job, right?
Mm.
Or
Mm.
he could get into a data operating function if the job market is still not as buoyant as it is.
Mm.
Now, when he works for an IT division, for example, and his boss tells him, I need to buy 5 computers, does he go and buy computers for the company irrespective of the quality because my boss told me to do this? No. Or does he sees himself as an IT businessman?
Mm.
That is where adhocracy is. Everybody work like today you take this interview. Do you
Mm.
take it because you work for VIT, or had you been a freelance journalist who
Mm.
is taking interviews and publishing and trying to create a product in the
Yeah.
market? So we are moving from this from the bureaucracy to
Meritocracy.
meritocracy to a adhocracy or a gig economy. See,
Mm.
today you don't own a car. Today
No.
we don't need to own car because you have got car availability,
Yeah.
right? You just call up a guy and he would come and you would pay him and you would. So the whole economy is changing. So
Yeah.
people to be we come, this middle class Indians come from a mindset that I need to work for a large company from paycheck to paycheck. And there was a story I will tell you during the 2009 economic recession. There were two brothers in Italy. So one
Mm.
of the brother was a banker, and he was like a vice president in a bank and earning a very fat salary, had a very nice wife, had got kids, big house, big car. And his brother was a taxi driver.
Okay.
Between the two, you would of course say that the elder brother is doing well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is what the parents thought. But when economic uncertainty, recession hit them, the elder brother lost his job.
Okay.
But the younger one was used to economic ups and downs.
Yeah.
It was just a normal day for him.
Mm.
Now you guess, after 2 years, whose life is more stable? Younger brother, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would bring in another story here. I tell young students a lot, a very elementary story. Opportunity knocks at the door. We all know opportunity knocks at the door, but
Yeah.
once, right? Opportunity gives you a call. Sam, I'm going to come tomorrow morning to your place.
Mm.
7 o'clock, I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay, opportunity comes, 7 o'clock, the bell rings, opportunity comes and sits in the sofa. You are like ready, not yet ready, go take a bath, you come out, your shirt is not ironed. Half an hour, opportunity is pissed off, he departs, he goes away.
Okay.
And here is Sam too.
Mm.
Sam Dua, opportunity coming tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. He goes to sleep at 11 o'clock in the night with a cold glass of milk, have a good sleep, irons his shirt, packs his bag, gets up at 5:30, does his yoga, morning rituals, wearing a nice dress, waiting downstairs, opportunity comes, open the door, hop into the car, you go. Tell me, between these two, which one would you want to be part of?
I want to be the second one. Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah.
So what we did was we created scenarios and
Yes.
we prepared ourselves.
Yeah.
Lean management, yes.
Yes.
Resource management, yes.
Yes.
Cost measurement strategy, yes.
Yes.
This is the right mindset.
Yeah.
Right mindset is that this is the time to prepare for it.
So your message is yes, during this challenge time, have scenarios and keep preparing and keep upskilling yourself. Because once it's opened up, we can just boom up, right?
Yes.
That can definitely happen. So you are requesting all to take this time to upskill, right? And
You
have
know,
some.
I work with a lot of schools also. I
Mhm.
work with I work with a lot of school because as a part timer I do career. I'm a career development
Counseling. Okay.
facilitator as well. So
Wonderful.
there is an organization called DEHA, DHEYA. So they
Hmm.
are into career counseling. So they
Hmm.
train. So I do a lot of that stuff. And during this time, and how it started was my daughter started doing her classes on Zoom, and
Okay.
I could see
Hmm.
teachers struggling on delivery on Zoom. So they were not very familiar with the Zoom environment. They were not familiar how to share the screen and stuff like that, right? So I saw an opportunity there.
Great.
I got in touch with the school management.
Wow.
The word spread, and today I have 5 schools as a customer. I work with their teachers how to work, how to take a class on a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams environment. So see, I created opportunity for myself. So
Mm.
how often do your students go and engage with school teachers, go and engage with the local shopkeeper? You know,
Yeah.
we get plumbers at home. I had a plumber at home and he struggles with work. I got him onto the urban clap
Wow.
platform.
So he's busy now. Yeah.
Yes. So how often do young students reach out?
Yeah.
Reach out. You know, you need to develop skills of working with people and hang around, try to understand how the world works. The
Yeah.
world work in a very, like you very rightly said, on a very non-linear fashion. It is
Yeah.
not black and white. It's all varying degrees of gray.
Yeah. Yeah. So I keep telling people, like, life is all about like a ECG. If you're alive, there will be ups and downs. Only when the rhythm is there, life is there, right? If,
Yes.
if there's a straight line in ECG, we're
No.
gone.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
could never expect life to be very smooth, cool. Now this is up and down. So maybe we can take up those things. And sir, like quick things, like whatever you told till now is amazing. And maybe yes, once all this things settle down, we would love to have you on our campus,
Do that.
across all the campuses, because we need veterans like you to maybe coach up our students on their career planning or
On
resource
real
planning.
business skills as well, how to negotiate a contract, how to get the dotted line signed. That's a skill.
That's a skill. Yeah, yeah,
Selling. You can do a lot of counseling, but your students don't sign up. You know
yeah.
a lot of corporates, but they're not hiring your students. That's a skill
Mm,
which can be evaluated, right? I do
true.
a lot of coaching on those kind of skills as well.
So definitely we need to do that. And maybe there are many others who are listening this video. And what you can do is, all of you, anybody who is there, if you're a admin, if you're a head, if you're a director of some institutions, please go to the description level in this channel. On this video, there's a description. So on the description, you'll find Mr. Sumit Barat's LinkedIn. Please get connected, because this generation is all about networking. And sir would be available on the LinkedIn link in the description. And please do write to him. And people like this, who has passion, you can see how he was speaking. I thought he's addressing thousands of audience live. That passion, the thing, if we can have it, sir, I'm sure your knowledge would be a great blessing to so many. All right, especially there are a lot of colleges who are running this aviation management, BBA aviation management, BTech in aeronautical engineering. So now it's a big question mark, to the parents, to the children. But people like you, if you can just, take this message to all of them, because I know a lot of organizations who are running these programs. So I would also share, with your permission, this to all the aeronautical colleges or aviation management colleges, principals and chairs, that they should know somebody like you, and learning should be contagious. That's what I, now for the last 2 months, I'm putting a phrase, learning should be contagious, not COVID. All right.
Yes,
If we
yes.
can make
And
learning,
aviation is a huge field which
yes.
starts with an aircraft manufacturer, with
Mm,
aircraft leasing companies, with airports, air companies that own airports, with the airline, there are catering companies, there are ground handling companies, there are fueling, there are fuelers, there are
mm,
IT support services provider that manages the inventory, distribution of the products.
mhm.
There are then the whole airline purchasing procurement division. So airline is not just flying aeroplanes and lamb and chicken. No, airline is a huge industry. And
Yeah,
believe me, industry really struggles with to attract smart, intelligent people with
yeah,
the right skill. Getting my
yeah,
point?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it is very important that kids they understand airlines is about logistics, about cargo, about
Supply
supply
chain.
chain,
Yeah, yeah.
about everything. If you see today, India road accidents are so high, God forbids, but Indian sky is one of the safest in the world.
Yeah, yeah, true.
One of the safest in the world. Are you getting my point? So there's a huge industry. People's understanding of the industry is very limited.
Mm,
So that needs to grow. People need to be skilled. They need to be customized, and then it's also the college's responsibility to customize, to know exactly what an organization wants. And
mm,
then there's no point preparing students in a very generic fashion and then presenting to the organizations. No, one
mm.
should know what exactly does Boeing needs. What
Yeah.
exactly does, if Amazon would hire so many, why would not Boeing or Honeywell or Airbus hire? Because
Mm,
if you engage with colleges, prepare students in that fashion,
mhm.
and then kind of making them employable, billable, and then letting them go ahead in life.
Great. Great, sir. So I'm sure you've taken almost an hour, amazing
Thank you
time
so
of
much.
yours. It is a
Pleasure
great
is all
learning
mine.
session. It's a great learning session. And maybe later on, we can also try with your and your peer teams in the globe. We can have a small conclave live,
Sure.
which can
They
go.
can ask questions. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it means you people will be live, you and maybe some counterparts in US, UK, based on the time zone. And let's make it live where people can
Sure.
ask you,
Ask questions.
yeah, so that will be more reachable. So with your kind permission, we can do that
Thank you.
based on, yeah. So, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was wonderful, doing all this talk. It's really enriching because the learning what I learned is you have to be on the go, right, and have scenarios. That was the first thing, because everybody says, okay, gone, that's all gone, that's all gone, right? But you said no, it's not that. Okay, and the beautiful analogy of World War II, after everything that was totally demolished and we restarted from scrap, but here
Yes.
everything is ready. It's just that it's on the ground, right? Once we zoom up and we can,
Yes.
yeah. So we need to be having ready with scenarios in life. And sir, thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you,
And
Sam.
may God bless you with all your endeavors, with all your programs, and with your talents. And for those of you who want to reach out, please go down quickly, right away. It takes it. We are just a click away from sir, just a click away. So go to the LinkedIn, approach, and then see how we can together build the nation, right? We can together build the work. So thank you so much, Mr. Sumit. Right? It was a pleasure, having you there. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.